Yeah, sure. We're going to do a prayer and pledge. Okay. Good evening. This is November 19, 2024. This is a special meeting of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the City of Hendersonville. It's just right at 7 o'clock. We're going to begin as we typically do. That's with a prayer and a pledge. And tonight, providing our prayer is Alderman Peterson. Thank you. Oops. Sorry. There we go, Lee. Thank you.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Please with those who are hurting and bless them, and guide us as we do the work of the people tonight. And in your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Alderman Peterson. Please join me with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Annette, will you call the roll, please?
Bergdorf.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Dixon. Garton. Garza.
Here.
Goodwin.
Here.
Martin. Peterson.
Here.
Robertson.
Here.
Sassy.
Here.
Skidmore. Here. Waters.
Okay.
And Clary.
Here.
It's 10.
We've got 10. I'll entertain a motion to accept our agenda. We have a motion from Alderman Waters, a second from Alderman Skidmore. There's really no discussion. It's a special meeting. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. Our agenda is approved. We have no presentations, public hearings, minutes. No one has signed up for citizen comments. We're down to ordinances and resolutions. Our only item here is reading of ordinance 2024-22. This is an ordinance ratifying a settlement agreement from the Management Review Committee and amending Budget Ordinance 2024-08 to appropriate funds for said settlement. And of course, this is subject to the approval by the board pursuant to Ordinance 2002-12, and that's waiving the 2-week rule. So first, let's have a motion to waive the 2-week rule, please. We have a motion from Alderman Robertson and a second from Alderman Peterson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. So now we need a motion to approve this, and that's a motion from Alderman Robertson. Second. And a second from Alderman Sassy. Okay, so now we have discussion. Alderman Robertson, would you like to speak first? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to have just some brief remarks. First, I want to thank the committee. This hearing lasted 11 and a half hours, and we had a number of witnesses and reams of exhibits, and I want to thank the committee for their diligence. It was a great committee to work with. They had the interest of the city at heart, so thank you so much. I also want to thank both attorneys for their hard work in putting this together, and especially City Attorney Ray. He actually carried multiple roles in this process, and he carried it with affluence and precision and professionalism. So thank you, Mr. Ray, for that. So what you have in front of you, you have an ordinance, and that ordinance approves the settlement agreement that was reached with the Management Review Committee and Chief Bush. And you also have an order. This is a little different because I wanted to make sure there was a good record of this process, this procedure. So you have an order, and the back of the order is the settlement agreement. The settlement agreement, it's my understanding, will be signed by both parties after the second reading. So that's why it's not signed at this time. But the Management Review Committee approved unanimously the order and the settlement agreement. And you have in front of you that document. The order speaks for itself, I believe. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If not, I yield back.
Thank you, Alderman Robertson. I do have a question, but we'll go to Alderman Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to mention, do we need to add Exhibit A to this ordinance?
I will do that after we have discussion.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that. So Alderman Robertson, I'm going to come to you with a question in just a second. We want to work our way through this a little bit. So, in a couple of comments from me, and I'm going to come to you with a question in just a second. So, I'd like to pay all our employees more. I think our department heads deserve $1 million, to be honest with you. And I think all of us feel like we should pay our staff, especially our department heads, more. The problem with that is it's not our money. The paychecks for our employees come from the taxpayers. And so when we talk about raises, when we talk about spending money, we've got to realize that that means that in some cases we would have to raise taxes. Again, I'd love to do that, but the way that we've decided how we're going to pay our employees is our budget and then our personnel policies. That's not something that I do, that's something that we all do. That's something that the board has passed. But these policies create disparities among our employees because our employees are not equal. Our employees have different responsibilities, years of service, skills, education, and these factors allow disparities among employees. They allow disparities among firefighters. Two firefighters that do the same job, possibly sitting next to each other on an engine, could be paid differently. Same thing could be said of police officers. Two police officers, the same job, because of different experience, years of service, education, could be paid differently. And that's because of the policies and the budget that we have. And the positions of police chief and fire chief are paid according to their different responsibilities and years of service, education, skills, and experience. There's no reason to expect that the police chief and the fire chief should be paid the same. There's no reason at all. So, Alderman Robertson, during the Management Review Committee, Chief Bush said that he was mistreated. Was there ever any evidence that I mistreated him? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I will respond by reading directly from the order that was unanimously approved by the committee. And if you look on page 3 of the document of the ordinance, bullet number 9, I'm going to read directly from the order that was unanimously approved. It was further alleged by Chief Bush that the mayor's decision with regard to the response to Chief Bush's grievance was due to the mayor's targeting Chief Bush. The committee found nothing to support this claim.
Okay, thank you. Jason, can you come up here? I've got some questions that need your help. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. What is Chief Bush's current salary?
Let's see, his current salary right now is $151,829 per year.
Okay. Okay, now there's some additions to that.
That's right.
Okay.
So there's education pay at 2.5%, that's another $37.95 per year. There's paramedic pay at $6,000 a year and hazmat pay at $900 per year.
So total of?
$162,525.
Okay. So you mentioned his salary first. How do we determine a department head salary?
The salary is determined generally is the same as all employees. So for new hires, as an example, we start at step 1, look at the education above minimum requirements. If that offer is declined, then we begin looking at other factors. So we'll look at additional experience, kind of a 2-to-1 ratio. So for 2 years of direct experience, may equal 1 step, be able to move up that ladder. And then also internal equity, we have to keep that in mind because we want to be cognizant of seniority and things, you know, of what we pay our current employees.
Okay. So you said when a department head starts.
Yep.
So when do we determine a department head's salary? When do we do that?
So we would do that before they take the position generally. And so that's done after an interview process has occurred.
Okay. Okay. Who determined Chief Bush's salary?
Back in 2015, that was Mayor Foster who
Okay.
determined that.
Okay. Now, since then, anybody who's been here for more than a year, their pay changes.
That's
And-
right.
And I know you sent out a table to Chief Bush on how his pay has changed since 2015.
Yes.
Asking if there are any errors. Did you receive a response?
No, I did not.
Okay. Jesse, can you help us out here? So Jesse, I know that you were part of that conversation about possible errors in Chief Bush's pay. Did the staff commit any errors in determining Chief Bush's pay?
So Jason put a table together, and it went back to 2007, and it listed out all the PAFs, which are personal action forms, and that's kind of our record of, you know, what pay was, and then if it changes, where it goes to. So when I look back from 2007 to current, I found two instances that I would not have processed the way that they were processed. One, they weren't in dealing with e-pay. E-pay was done correctly. They were, there was two promotional processes, one in February 2015 when promoted to division chief, and then again in May of 2015 when serving in their role as interim chief. So, you know, the impact of those errors, when promoted to division chief, there was an underpayment of 2.5%. So like a lot of folks, when they got a 7.5% bump, but then they lost e-pay, the net take-home was only 5%. It's intended to be 7.5%. So that was for a 3-month period, and that I estimated at $380 as an underpayment of $380. The role as interim fire chief, at that point in time, we did not have a policy that said you have to do a pay increase for an interim. Our policy now says you'll do at least a 5%. We had a director who served as an interim role since I've been here, and we awarded a 10%. So if we had done a 10% at that time for the fire chief, then what happened, the 37.9% increase that happened at that point would be an overpayment of 25% for 2 pay periods, for a total overpayment of $2,800. So combined together, the only things I could point out since 2007 between those two things was an overpayment of $2,500.
Okay, thank you. And Jesse, what's been my role in determining Chief Bush's salary?
So as Jason alluded to, the salaries are not set by you. They're based on the city's adopted pay structure. And to my knowledge, you don't have any involvement in Chief Bush's pay except for in 2021 when we discussed and you approved a 2.5% additional increase to Chief Bush's salary, and that's when we did a merit increase. Instead of 2.5%, you approved me to do a 5% increase to his salary. So that was back in 2021, and the net effect of that has been approximately additional $10,000 in salary from that point in 2021.
Okay, thank you.
But that's not like something that was done wrong with it. That was just something that you afforded, you know, the chief to have.
Something you and I discussed, proposed to the board passed.
Yeah, actually, well, it was in the budget, so that did not go to the board. There could be, I mean, there's interpreted that there's some discretion with how department heads are handled in terms of salary, but those I take to you if I'm asking for more money for a department head, and that I took to you.
Okay, thank you. Lance, what was the event that inspired this grievance?
According to the grievance, our police chief, Chief Jones, was promoted to chief this past April, and I believe that from that PAF, Chief Bush noticed a disparity in the pay, and that he was receiving e-pay that may have been above what e-pay should have been paid.
Okay. And during the management review committee, Chief Bush said his goal is to fix the problem for the benefit of all employees. So if we agree to this ordinance, what's to stop future employees from filing grievances when they feel they're not being treated equitably compared to other employees?
Well, nothing in this ordinance will prevent that.
Okay, okay. Also, during the management review committee, Chief Bush said he was mistreated. Was there any evidence of mistreatment by me or any staff member?
No, not at all. In full transparency, the grievance was filed to you. You gave it to myself, to our Chief of Operations, and to our Director of Administrative Services / Human Resources. And we investigated it thoroughly and brought recommendations to you, and you acted upon those recommendations.
What was your recommendation to me on that grievance?
So, Chief Jones was receiving e-pay above what his educational level would entitle him to, but what is unclear is back several years ago that was done for some people. So but there's also an ordinance that said that e-pay should be removed if you're moving into a position that no longer qualified for that level of e-pay. And there were some ordinances that were a little bit vague too, but we thought it best to take away the e-pay from Chief Jones. We recommend that to you, and you acted upon that. And we couldn't find any miscalculations to Chief Bush's pay, so we didn't make any recommendations to that.
Okay, thank you. Jason, can I have you come back, please? Okay. So we talked about e-pay, we talked about salary, we talked about pay in general. Was Chief Bush allowed to store more vacation time than other current employees?
Yes.
Okay. Approximately how much?
Right now, he has a little over 500 hours,
Okay. If we were to pay that out, what would that cost the city?
about $40,000.
Okay. I appreciate that. So the reason that vacation pay, and you're probably okay for a few minutes, I think.
Okay.
The reason that vacation pay is important is the financial impact of the city. When employees choose not to use their vacation or are unable to during the calendar year, they have the opportunity to ask me for some flexibility. As a rule, anybody who doesn't use their vacation, I give them a couple more months to use it. I get it that sometimes with staffing levels, with things going on in family, with school, with kids, that sometimes they're not able to use it. As a rule, I give everybody 2 extra months. I sign a form that's a waiver that gives them 2 extra months. The problem when we get into this situation, we have such a large amount, is something that happened to us a couple years ago. We had an employee that we had to pay over $100,000 when he retired, and that was for his vacation time. What had happened was he had been allowed to accrue vacation time, so when it came time to retire, we had to go out and hire his replacement, pay his replacement, and essentially we continued paying him even though he wasn't available to the city. It was over $100,000 when somebody left. So that's why I focus on vacation time. But this is a situation that I provided more vacation time, and it was a benefit. That is something that the board allows me to do and something I did. And it's could cost us $40,000. But there were reasons for that, and I can go into those another time. Fortunately, boards before us changed that policy, that we aren't likely to have a situation we're going to have another $100,000 payout. Unfortunately, we might be headed that direction again, like I said, with a possible future payout for Chief Bush. But I also want to bring up how we determine what our pay structure is. You know, we do pay studies, and I think even the newer aldermen know that we do pay studies every couple of years. But what we do is we compare our staff to other cities, because we want to attract the best police officers, so we make sure that our compensation is close to the police officers' compensation in other cities. Same thing with firefighters. We compare our firefighters' pay to the firefighters' pay of other cities. We compare our planners' pay to other cities' planners. The same is true of building inspectors. We compare them to building inspectors, accountants to accountants, and so on. We don't compare the pay for our fire chief with the pay of a building inspector. We don't compare the pay of a fire chief to planners or accountants or police chief. The pay for our fire chief is compared to other fire chiefs. And I've said this part publicly many, many times, that we don't pay our city employees based on what other city employees make. We pay them, like I said, compared to what people in similar positions get paid in other cities. Again, one employee's pay for the city of Hendersonville is not based on another employee's pay for the city. But that's what we're being asked to do here. Base one employee's pay on another employee's pay. We're not comparing fire chief to fire chief. We're comparing fire chief to police chief. The fire chief did not contest his pay until the police chief was named several months ago. Upon learning of the police chief's pay, the fire chief said he wanted equity. Notably, several times in the past, he had acknowledged the city's policies for pay and agreed to how it applied to him. But when he found out what the police chief was being paid, he filed a grievance. Now, the easy route when a grievance is filed is for me to say yes. That'd be the easy route. And give relief to everybody and give them what they want. But I have to follow the policies. That's the reason I asked the question to Lance. I've got to follow the policies and the budget that this board sets. And that's what I was doing when I answered no, when I didn't feel like what Chief Bush was asking for. And that's what I was doing when we decided to change the way that Chief Jones was paid. I was following those policies. Again, I would love to pay all our department heads $1 million, but it's not my money. It's our taxpayers' money, and I have to follow the policies and the budgets that y'all set. Now, the ordinance that we've got in front of us is to spend an additional $42,000 above our current budget. It will not provide any greater services to our residents, and actually, it will reduce funds available for city services. It will reduce available money for parks programs, infrastructure improvements, paving, and other city services. And in that grievance, the fire chief repeatedly mentions the pay of the police chief. The fire chief wants equity with the police chief. The fire chief does not want equity with the other department heads. As head of the fire department, the fire chief is paid more than the heads of our public works department, planning department, finance, administrative services, parks, and codes. He's not claiming that his pay should match their pay. He wants to be fire chief, but be paid equitably to the person who's police chief. Even though both have had the opportunity to work at the city, to have their education covered by the city, to be compensated according to the policies established by the board, and they both had the opportunity to seek the same positions, the fire chief and police chief took different paths. And that's why we're here now. Those paths and years of service determine their pay, and it's not equitable. But the path and position of one employee should not determine the pay of another employee. That would be unfair. It would produce equity, but it would be unfair. And having said all this, I've got to pause and say that my heart goes out to our police chief. He's been vilified for months. He did absolutely nothing wrong. But during the management review committee, he was the focus. It was like the villain in a play. And he finally took the stage after hours of dialogue about him. And the police chief has handled this mistreatment very, very well. This situation was entirely unfair to our police chief. It reminded me of years past when department heads were expected to pick a side among the BOMA alliances. Employees who refused to pick sides or pick the wrong side were mistreated. And that environment led us to inconsistent pay policies that we ended up with. And that was the first wrong. Those pay inconsistencies regarding education pay are a legacy of 7 aldermen taking over city administration for several years. Since those 7 aldermen left, city staff and I have been correcting problems by creating consistent policies that don't play favorites. That was the reason for my question of Jesse and Jason and Lance. We've been trying to fix those policies and make them consistent. Our police chief didn't play favorites, and for that he's being mistreated in a horrifying manner. He has protected us and deserves more than we pay him. Nevertheless, he's being targeted by people who disagree with the exceptional nature of police work. Chief Jones deserves every bit of the money we pay him. Keep in mind, he was chosen through a nationwide search, more than 100 applications, an interview process of 6 finalists, and unanimously we agreed to choose him. In addition to having an exceptional person as police chief, the responsibilities are unique. He and his employees wear bulletproof vests, they carry guns, and they interact with dangerous criminals. No other city department has that responsibility that Chief Jones has. Of the 5 people killed in the line of duty during the city's 56 years, Chief Jones worked with 3 of them. Nobody compares to what Chief Jones provides to us, and nobody should try to compare themselves to Chief Jones. He is paid fairly. Our other employees are paid fairly, even though they are not paid the same as Chief Jones. Standing by our police chief and the residents of Hendersonville, I cannot support this expenditure. It's just wrong. It's the second wrong. We should not pass this ordinance because 2 wrongs don't make a right. We should spend the money on other city services for our residents. Does anybody else wish to speak?
Yes.
Alderman Robertson.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I know that comes from your heart. All of us share with your opinion regarding Chief Jones. He is an exemplary employee. Both of our chiefs are. I do want to comment, if you'll look again on page 3 of 5, number 10. I would like to read this into the record. It's in the record, but I would like to read it in the record because I have a motion, a Scrivener's error motion that I would like to make after we go through this. Bear with me, please. The committee further found that with regard to the disparity of base pay between Chief Bush and Chief Jones, that under the city's pay grade and step system and scale, there is no requirement of instantaneous and identical parity. Both chiefs are on the same pay grade, 26, but where each chief's placement is on the pay grade steps at certain points of time is affected by other factors as they are in this grievance. Exhibit 1, pages 51 through 53, identifies these factors. In conclusion, it appears that Chief Bush and Chief Jones's career path over their 30-plus years of commendable service to the city were much different in terms of the number of promotions applicable in the police department versus the fire department, comma, the earlier promotions of Chief Jones versus Chief Bush, and the earlier achievement of educational degrees by Chief Jones than Chief Bush. In this, and most of this language is mine, Exhibit 1, pages 51 through 53 are not attached. You have in front of you a copy of those. I believe those are the result of the testimony of Mr. Eckenroth, and I thought that it was important for us, for future BOMAs. One of the things I found is that the record of previous Management Review Committee hearings is sparse, to say the least. So this document, I think, better clarifies for future BOMAs the record. So you see in this, I think it's listed at the top, Exhibit 10. That's just for identification purposes. So this, I make a motion that this be attached to the
ordinance?
to the ordinance, which the order and the settlement agreement is part of. So I make a motion to include that.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a second from Alderman Peterson. Any discussion on that? Thank you, Alderman Robertson. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Alderman Robertson, we're back to you.
Again, this was a settlement. This doesn't deal with e-pay. This doesn't deal with disparity of pay. This is just a settlement. No party, either the grievant or the city, admits any liability or responsibility. This is an effort to get this off of the city time and effort that we're paying and move on to other places. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands we're not casting blame on anyone in this. This is a settlement agreement, pure and simple, just to resolve it. Let's get away from it and get back to business.
Alderman Robertson, thank you.
Thank you.
JP, can we do this electronically? Oh, there you are, Jason, sorry. Okay, so we're going to do it electronically. Oh, we have two speakers. Go ahead, Lance.
I just want to make sure it's clear that prior to the Management Review Committee hearing, the city and Chief Bush's attorneys exchanged exhibits. This was part of those exhibits, and as you mentioned, part of the hearing, but it was referred to in the Management Review Committee's order. So you're putting this in there just to have something to refer to as not being part of that before. That's correct, right, I'm sorry, Alderman Robertson?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you both. Alderman Bergdorf. No, answered my question. Okay. So we have amended this once by adding the document, but now we're voting on the main motion. Jason, are you ready for us? So all those in favor of ordinance 2024-22 as amended, press the green button. Those opposed, press the red one. We're missing one person. Nope, there we go. So those in favor, this passes. Those in favor, Alderman Bergdorf, Skidmore, Peterson, Sassy, Garza, Goodwin, Collins, Waters, Robertson, and I am the only no. We have no other business. Do I have a motion? We have a motion to adjourn from Alderman Goodwin. Second. And a second from Alderman Garza. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Thank you all.